What goes on in China, the kind of production that they have, is actually making the starting materials for the active pharmaceutical ingredient. So the first chemicals that go into the API is oftentimes what's made in China. And in many cases, China is the sole source for that material. A lot of the materials that were manufactured in Wuhan actually got shipped to India, where the Indian generic companies did the manufacturing of the active pharmaceutical ingredient. And what we're finding now is that in many cases, China was the only supplier of these raw ingredients. And so what we've identified through this episode is a critical choke point in the supply chain for pharmaceuticals, and some critical pharmaceuticals. A lot of anti-infectives that are manufactured, generic anti-infectives that are manufactured in India, the starting ingredients that go into those intermediate products of the anti-infectives are actually manufactured in China. And so it calls into question whether or not we have the right policies, I believe, in terms of how we look at potential disruptions in the supply chain, because our orientation historically has been focused on the finished product. We've required manufacturers historically to report to the FDA when there's shortages or near shortages of finished product. We have some insight into the manufacture of API, but on the whole, we aren't typically looking all the way down through the supply chain or requiring manufacturers to do that and report on what these critical choke points can be. And so it begs the question whether or not we should reconsider those policies. And it's not just in the setting of pandemics where this can become a risk. It could be political upheaval. It could be political strife. It could be situations, to your point, Mr. Chairman, where countries try to nationalize supplies, where there's a critical supply and they hold on to enough supply to satisfy their local needs in the setting of a public health crisis before they ship outside their borders.